to another edition, the Super Bowl preview edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, my longtime friend, esteemed colleague, and wonderful coach and mentor, John Webster. John, how you doing?
Hey, Gary, another great week in sports. Super Bowl is coming up. I'm very excited about that. Good weather here in Maryland. Hope you got good
Mm-hmm.
weather out there in Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
And can't wait to get us started talking a little bit about some sports, man. Let's go for it.
All
Oh,
right.
let me back up. I'm sorry. John Pitt, how you doing, man?
Doing good, guys. Just trying to figure out what I'm doing this Sunday for the big game.
You mean what you're going to do for a menu or where you're going to go?
Both. Not
All
sure
right.
yet.
That's a good problem to have, man. That's
Yes,
a
it
good
is.
problem to have. Yep. So let's just get right into it. We talked last week about our picks for the game, why we think the Chiefs, either Chiefs or the 49ers, could win. I think we were both unanimous in picking the Chiefs to win, but anything over the last week, John, has changed your mind or reinforced your view?
I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a tight game. Chiefs are playing really well right now. They've had some tough games. They went on the road, beat Buffalo. They went on the road and they beat Baltimore Ravens. This year, Patrick Mahomes has played with a offense that was basically pedestrian, and he still was able to get it done. This is the best defense he's had. Spagnuolo has done a wonderful job as defensive coordinator. They played really hard and they've been playing really well. A repeat is in the cards for the Kansas City Chiefs. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
going I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers.
What? I thought you changed, huh?
I'm going with the 49ers, Gary.
You going with
And
going with your heart, huh?
well, I'm also looking at it. I gave you a stat last week I was incorrect about. I said every rematch of a Super Bowl game, the team that won the first one won the second game. I was incorrect. That is not true. The
Hmm.
Washington Redskins played the Miami Dolphins twice. The first time they lost 14-7, the second time they beat them 27-17. I also think Kyle Shanahan is a very adept coach and play caller. The weakness that Kansas City has is their run game. Buffalo ran to the tune of 180 plus yards. I see the same thing happening with San Francisco. Getting McCaffrey going in between the tackles, getting him going behind big Highway 71, Trent Williams, and then throwing in a few plays for Deebo Samuel and Ayuk to get a few yards on some of these reverses. I really think they're going to eat up time. I really think they're going to control the clock. And when you control the clock, that reduces the opportunities of Patrick Mahomes. I think San Francisco wins the game. For Kansas City to win, I think they need to be in a shootout. I don't think this is going to be a shootout. I think it'll be in the 20s, but I don't think it'll be a shootout. I also think San Francisco's defense, much maligned throughout the season, much criticized throughout the season and in the playoffs. Green Bay chopped them up. Detroit chopped them up for a good half. I think they're
New York
I
Jets,
think
I
they're
think, chopped them up too.
who's that?
New York Jets.
Yeah. I think they come ready to play. Bosa and Chase Young are going to be on their best for this one.
Mhm.
I really like the linebacker Greenlaw. I just really feel San Francisco can win this game. I think they're going to prove a lot of people wrong. Kansas City is a tough team, one of the best, with the absolute best quarterback right now in the NFL. But I'm going with the 49ers.
All right. All excellent points in favor of your choice. Here's why I think Kansas City will win the game. Improved defense. I don't think I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I think San Francisco, they're going to have to kind of play, they're going to have to play smash mouth football, or they're going to have to play what I call slobber knocker football, which Kansas City, I think, is going to force them into whether they like it or not. I look at it as, let's put it this way. They took Baltimore completely out of their game. They took Buffalo somewhat out of their game. San Francisco is a team that I think if they're allowed to run, not just run the ball, but I mean really spread the field, they can, they can run by opponents. I don't think they're going to have that luxury against Kansas City. I do think it's really going to be a game where defensively, Kansas City is going to force San Francisco to run the ball at them and prove that they can win the line of scrimmage and then maybe set up the pass for Purdy. They can't rely on Purdy to win the game for them. They're going to have to use Debo and McCaffrey in tandem, the combination, to win the game. Kansas City will find a way to limit, if not shut down, one or both of them. But I think it's only going to be one of them because, let's look at it this way, John. They've been to what, 4 out of the last 5 Super Bowls. This is not their best offensive team, but they've won games thanks to field position and opportunities created by their defense. They've won twice on the road in this postseason. They're more or less, I mean, when you do that and get to a Super Bowl, I like to use the term playing with house money, but there's a certain determination that I sense with Kansas City since they won in Baltimore because everybody picked against them in that game. I don't think anybody really picked against them in Buffalo because, well, Buffalo is suspect. The offense for Kansas City has been suspect this year. I mean, well, they've pulled it together a little bit at a time. They can't keep dropping passes. They can't keep. I mean, I'm talking about just hitting them right in the hands, and that includes Keith Kelsey. I think with 2 weeks to kind of reset, renew, refresh, all those things, I do think that they'll come out with a certain fire because, again, last year, nobody gave them a chance against Philly. Nobody really gave them a good chance against Philly because of how Jalen Hurts and the Eagles came in there, and they won that game. And they won that game by running the ball. I think Kansas City can be effective running the ball against San Francisco, but I think it's really going to come down to the opportunities created by their defense. And this is the one time I think for Kansas City that we can really use that term defense wins Super Bowls. I mean, obviously they've got an offense, they've got the best quarterback in the game right now who can win a game for them. But I do think because of some of the problems that they've had on offense, that they're going to have to depend on their defense to kind of give them maybe 1 or 2 more extra possessions per game to put points on the board. But I look at what they did in Baltimore as how they can slow down and limit a fast team like the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. And I think they can do the same against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. And my score, I agree with you in terms of the score. I'm going to pick Kansas City 27-24.
All fair points, Gary. I'll also add this to my previous diatribe. This Super Bowl reminds me of a previous Super Bowl. It reminds me of a time when there was a quarterback looked upon as one of the best, similar to Mahomes, against a team that wasn't expected to be able to hang in there. And it was Green Bay Packers, Denver Broncos. And the coach of the Broncos was one named Mike Shanahan. He ran Terrell Davis to the tune of 200 plus yards, if I'm not mistaken, that day. And they pulled the game out in the end and won. The key to that game, they controlled the line of scrimmage most of the game. It was close. Brett Favre was still Brett Favre, but he wasn't the Brett Favre. And this is what I see happening. Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes, but you can't let him be the Patrick Mahomes. And this is what I see another Shanahan being able to do. Wouldn't that be a nice conversation at the dinner table at the family Christmas dinner for the Shanahans? Dad has 2, son has 1. Super Bowl trophies. My goodness, I think that's beautiful.
It would be really beautiful if it happens. I just don't think it's going to happen. But, that's why they play the game on Sunday. One side note to this Super Bowl, and there's been so much talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and all that. We've avoided that subject, but right now it is the elephant in the room. It's not about whether it's going to affect the play on the field, but I really think with Taylor Swift, whatever her effect is on anything that she touches, but in particularly the NFL this season, I think this has a chance to be probably the biggest Super Bowl audience ever, with all the Swifties and wannabe Swifties and curious Swifties. All I'm saying is, I really have to give her credit for all the new eyeballs she's drawn to this game. Roger Goodell couldn't contain himself during the press conference in terms of talking about the effect that she's had on the game, for a sport that really doesn't need it. I just can't wait to see what the ratings are, what the audience is for that game when they do the overnights, because it could just be really, really off the chain. And especially after, she got album of the year at the Grammys, she cleaned up there. I mean, I don't think, I really feel like this could be a game where we could have almost like a 70 share, which is huge. And I'm talking about worldwide.
Well, what do they always say about the NFL, Gary? It's a 12-month league. It never stops. Taylor Swift has been here. Great stuff has been coming about it. You've also, probably with her being an active participant in that most of these games, you probably brought in new viewership as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
without
like
a doubt.
I said, Roger Goodell's got to be happy. Wish her nothing but the best, great things, but don't want to wish her too much greatness, because 49ers, I'm picking, are going to win the game.
Okay. And again, I would love that from a NFC. I'm kind of an NFC guy, even though right now I'm wearing a San Diego Chargers jersey underneath a Super Bowl jacket from the last Super Bowl I covered back in the day.
Wow.
Where I saw my Packers. So I'm going to be wearing this on Sunday. Yes, it'll be washed before I wear it again. But this is one game that I really feel like could be huge, not just in terms of audience, but really in terms of what goes on the field. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I haven't seen what the over and under on this game is yet, but I think I'm willing to take the under, just because Super Bowls sometimes have a tendency to not live up to a high number, but if it's a low number, they find a way to exceed it. I don't see that really I don't see either team really breaking down to the point where they allow somebody to break it open. It would be nice to see a shootout because I can't remember the last time we saw one. But yeah, again,
Maybe
that's what it's going to
maybe
be interesting on Sunday.
maybe Atlanta, New England. When New England was losing 28-3, came back and won in overtime. That's
Mm,
probably
yeah.
probably the
Or New
closest you
England,
could.
Philly. I mean, the way that
Yeah,
they came
yep.
back, came back and won that game and used a little trickery to do it. So, I mean, anything's possible. But I don't know. I think these are two teams. Again, I really see a slobber knocker. Kind of grinded out game for both of them. I think I'm not going to say the fourth quarter is going to make the difference. I do think, depending, I think the third quarter is really going to help set the tone for the game. Depending on who's ahead, I think the game can really be won or lost in that third quarter.
Well, good point, Gary. I'm not sure about that. I think it's going to come down to the end. Uh, Maybe who has the ball last. I
Mm-hmm.
still think these are two very evenly matched teams.
Mm-hmm.
I may be in the minority on that, and I just think San Francisco finds a way to get it. I
Yeah.
think a player that will play a key part for the 49ers will be Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
Him running the ball, that's going to be an important component. Uh, you're going to get, and Shanahan, the 49ers always find a way to work the middle of the field. I don't think that's going to change for this game. I think they still will. They have so many weapons. I mean, McCaffrey's the key. But then you got Debo Samuel, you got George Kittles. They got a lot of weapons, man. They got a lot of
Oh,
weapons.
yeah, without a doubt. I think with Kansas City and kind of analyzing the previous three Super Bowl teams, the first one was I think the first one was probably their best one. When they went back the next year against Tampa Bay, that defense was weak. I mean, it was what do you say? It was like weak T or whatever that term is. They had an obvious weakness. They were a little shaky last year, but they were resilient last year in terms of
Mhm.
of beating Philly. This team, I feel like I don't think they really have weaknesses. Their questions are more self-inflicted in terms of their receivers. I think that's where the weak spot is. That's correctable. If you're just weak, all throughout the season with that, and we can point to an example every game where the receivers have dropped passes. But that I don't think that lasts forever. Again, things like that you can correct. If it's a scheme issue, if it's a talent issue, those things you can't overcome. But I do think if you just stop making mistakes, and that's the thing that has really, really, really hurt Kansas City this year in terms of really showing how good they can be. But when those lights come on and it's crunch time, they have found a way to get it done, especially down the stretch.
I tell you what, Gary, get your warm up popcorn together, then get your appetizer wings together, and then get
Mm.
your entree pizza together.
Did I
And
tell
don't
you my menu or something? I mean, that's exactly what I mean, I'm gonna do some wings. I'm gonna have pizza. I don't know about the popcorn because I might be full from the wings and the from the wings and the
But you
pizza.
see, you eat the popcorn first. That just gets you started. And you
That
just get
gets
a
me full, man. That's
no,
that
just get a
that's that kind of
small
stuff
bucket.
gets me
Just get a
full.
small bucket. Small bucket.
Mm, okay. I'm taking that advice from you, John, because you are a Hall of Fame eater. You are a Hall of Fame foodie.
I don't know if I should say thank you to that, Gary. But
John, I mean, I'm giving you some dap, man, because you are a man who loves his food. Again, you carry a platter. Most of us eat off plates. You carry a platter, man. And whether you want to admit it or not, we know you do because some people close to you have alluded to that. I think, in fact, I think I even offered to give you one of my many free briefcases from covering something so you can carry it around in, and it's
I can
padded.
I can neither confirm nor deny, but we can discuss.
Okay, all right. So, John, in Washington, okay, we have the hiring of an offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, after much debate. I'll be honest, I think that hiring makes me feel better about the offensive situation, the offensive questions that were there after they hired Dan Quinn, a defensive guy, as head coach. And of course, that means Eric Bieniemy will soon be looking for a job. I think he's really at a crossroads in his career because he can't go back to Kansas City unless it's, with hat in hand. That's the way I look at it. But I do think that there's probably a team that's interested in him. Yeah, I've heard it's the Las Vegas Raiders, and that's probably where he's going to land on Antonio Pierce's staff. I guess depending on how that whole thing shakes out. But for Washington, I'm encouraged about that Kingsbury can really work with that offense, and maybe just maybe they can get the guys that they need in the draft to improve.
Well, Dan Quinn had his introductory press conference yesterday. Hey, I told you I liked the pick last week. I like it even more after yesterday. They asked the question, what can we expect from your teams? Explosiveness and physicality. And I know it's only words, but I'm not a football player. But listening to him talk, even at my age right now, I felt like going out on the field, and I have not played football, and just do a couple things. But
You were ready to run through a wall, huh?
well, I think I'd rather run on the field. A little old to be running through a wall now, but
A little old to be running on the field, both of us. We're a little too old to be running, period, man. Look, that's what walkers are made for.
well, I'm not that far yet.
No.
Give me a couple more years, but we'll see. But
Yeah.
I just think he's on the right path. I like Kingsbury. People will say they don't like Kingsbury because of what he did in Arizona. The difference is he was the head coach in Arizona. You're asking him to be offensive coordinator. And you look back at his quarterbacks, Texas Tech, Arizona, he's been successful. He had Kyler Murray in Arizona. He played very well. I think at Texas Tech, if I'm not mistaken, he had a guy that's playing in the Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. The
No,
Patrick
I keep
Mahomes.
I keep yeah, I keep going back to um gosh, what was the Red Rifle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't remember whether you had Andy Dalton there or not. That's one that of course is going to take some research on. But to your point, he's a coach now that can do what he does best: groom
Yeah.
quarterbacks, design an offense, and that's all he has to worry about. Maybe with the exception of putting the right pieces in place. We've had this discussion about some head coaches who haven't succeeded. Well, position coaches, coordinators who become head coaches and just didn't have the same kind of success. And the bottom line is always, yeah, they're better coordinators than they are head coaches, because being a head coach, it's, I mean, you even look at Andy Reid. I think that's something that he really had to grow in Kansas City to develop the kind of team that he has now. Going from a coordinator to being a head coach to all the things that come with it. Meeting with guys, via position meetings, dealing with media, scouting talent, looking at a whole lot of film. And especially since Andy Reid has a big hand in everything. And that's a lot for any assistant coordinator to step into, which I'll say for this season, looking at Washington and Eric Bieniemy in particular, that this was supposed to be maybe a tryout for him, an audition for him to maybe become a head coach. And for what it's worth, John, he didn't even really succeed as a coordinator, and that's supposed to be his specialty. So, I don't know whether it's the culture that he came into with Washington. I don't know whether it's just, a matter of how much control he was allowed to have. And of course, during the season, with some of the complaints coming from players about his style, that he could have lost the locker room a lot earlier than we thought before they started losing on the field, which is something that I think again he has to look himself in the mirror and say, what was my role in this, and what do I have to do to improve before my next chapter. But in terms of Cliff Kingsbury, he's back doing what he does well. I hope he succeeds for Washington's sake for a lot of reasons. I think for the first time in a long time, John, I can actually feel good about following the Washington football team. I'm not even going to get into the whole stuff about the name, but for a long time, and I'm talking about at least 10, 12 years, I've just tuned out on that team just because of the culture and because they did not seem committed to winning. And we don't know how it's going to turn out with Quinn, but it's a new day. It's a new slate. Let's hope he learns from his previous stops and builds a winner.
Well, one of the things that Quinn says, he's just concentrating on football. He's not having personnel to deal with other stuff in the front office. It's strictly football. He also said he's learned from the past. You got to make sure that you don't get caught on one side of the ball. You're there for the special teams, you're there for the offense, you're there for the defense, not one particular area. I think he will be able to do that. I think he has some players there that he'll be able to get different things out of. Emmanuel Forbes, that's a high draft pick they had last year. I think, the way that Dan Quinn plays defense, the ball hawking, the total go get them type of style, I think it's going to help. You have two interior defensive linemen, John Allen and Deron Payne. I think you can build around them. The wide receivers, you got Terry McLaurin, you got Dotson, you got tight end and Logan Thomas, and you have a good running back in Brian Robinson. Use them. And Chris Rodriguez as well. You're right. Yeah. So I think they are going to improve. I don't think they're at ground zero. I think they're going to take some of the parts and be better this year than they were in years past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, listen to Dan Quinn talk. Hey, I'm excited. I'm ready.
All right. So we can look forward to OTAs and minicamp and see where things are going. In the meantime, let's enjoy the game of the year. Let's really cherish it because it's going to be the last game until next September. And that's no offense to spring football that's going to be coming. It's just that, until it comes, this will be our reference point. And let's just hope for a great game and hope that it goes out with a bang.
I'm looking forward to it. You did mention the UFL coming up on March 30th. I'll be excited about that as well. But hey, everybody, find a nice place to watch the game. Enjoy yourself. Watch the Super Bowl. Still watch some other sports, but this week, watch the Super Bowl, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.